Hi folks, I'm just going to take the opportunity today to do a bit of a Q&A session for the channel and answer some of the questions that sort of regularly come up and try and cover as many of them as I can think of as I'm walking along for you, and just give you a little view of where I am today. This is a development in Dubai called Arabian Ranches. It was built in 2005, basically in the desert, and as you'll see now, it's developed. There's a lot of greenery, trees, plants, and what do you need to grow? And basically what is sand? Well, you need two things. You need an army of landscapers, which you'll see they have here, constantly working all the time to make this place look really nice. And you need a lot of water. Well, the water comes from desalination in the main, although it does rain here, but they also have obviously the sea, and they have a very large aluminium producing plant. Apparently a byproduct of making aluminium is fresh water. Using salt water, it converts it to fresh water. So each one of these trees, bushes, as you'll see, even has its own little water supply on a timer system. So each tree, plant has a timer system, and so it's watered constantly. There's a road here ringing around, but that's just a perimeter road within the total complex. It's not one of the main roads as such, and there's the perimeter road that runs all the way around the development, and here is one of the, it's a gated community, so here's one of the gates leading into one of the communities. And also there is this path leading all the way round in block paving, and it's a circular route from where I'm staying of 12 kilometres. There's a little map of the trail, they call it Arabian Ranches Trail, and from where I'm staying it's actually a 12-kilometre route round. And you know, it's a very pleasant walk, and again depends on the time of the year, but you've got all the plants, you've got the birds singing, etc. It's March now, middle of March, so it's starting to warm up. It's possibly I think 35, 36°C today, so still very walkable. I do it also in the summer, I have done plenty of times, July and August, where it gets up to 48, 50 degrees. And that's a little bit like, I'm probably the epitome of the saying from the Noel Coward song, mad dogs and Englishmen go out in the midday sun. Because when you're walking here in July, August, it really is hot. And the only way to describe that, if you've never been in this sort of heat, is that when you're walking along on the flat somewhere and then you want to go uphill, your breathing goes up a lot. Well, mine does anyway, but how fit you are, I guess. And even here, just walking along in the heat, when it's really hot, it sort of tends to take your breath away. It's like almost like walking up a hill. When I'm talking about my desert boots, and I'm wearing today the Ike's P9s I just recently reviewed, so I've got them on again today. I'm always mentioning that it's a good idea to have a thick outsole to stop the heat transfer, because when it's sort of 48 or plus air temperature, things like this block paving will heat up, you know, considerably. I would think well over 50 degrees. Some nice flowers there. What we also might see, we'll have to see as we move along, is that, as I say, this is a perimeter road. It's not a road going into the city as such. It goes out to a couple of gates. One of the things they're doing in Dubai now, and this is one of those only in Dubai stories, is that a lot of the vehicles here, off the SUV four-wheel drive, high proportion, I would, as a guess, probably think the highest proportion of cars in the world are SUVs, and also there's a lot of other high performance cars, all which take a lot of fuel, of course. So there are plenty of petrol stations, filling stations. There's no shortage, and they're quite big, but because there's so many vehicles now, and because they all need so much fuel, often during the day and even in night time, there's long queues sometimes to get into those petrol filling stations. So what they've come up with is a little tanker that will come to your house and fill your car up. So you book it online, and also you might think, well, that's okay, but you've got to wait in for that, which is a bit of a hassle. But that you can book it sort of at 2 AM in the morning, leave your petrol filler cap open, and they'll come and fill your car up and go. So when you wake up, your car's full. So I guess, you know, you can think of that two ways. Maybe from wherever you are, you think, that's fantastic, I wish we had that service where I live. Or you might just think, if you, me, like the older generation, people are just getting lazier and lazier. They can't even be bothered to go and fill their cars up. But anyway, that's a personal view. But it's a sort of indicative of the sort of thinking and service that the Emirates and Dubai come out with. And also, it's the same price. They don't charge any extra for that tanker to come to you. Now, because the sort of guys who do those jobs on probably fairly low wages, most people, if they're around, will probably give them a little tip. But there's actually no extra cost for the fuel. It's the same price as going to the filling stations. People on their bikes, this is people come along here on their bikes, and also obviously they're walking as well. Okay, so back to the sort of Q&A questions. One of the questions that always comes up is, how far do you walk in a year? And just to take a step back on that, I mean, I've walked all my life, but I lived and worked in the Middle East for many years, and while I was doing that, I wasn't really walking in the UK at all. I'd go on holiday to South Africa, maybe for 10 days, do some walking there, or go back to the UK for 2 or 3 weeks and do some walking there, but I certainly wasn't walking on a daily basis in the Middle East. Most of my activity was linked to swimming and scuba diving. But towards the end of 2014, I thought, I've got to get a grip on my fitness. I need to improve that. So I went to my local army surplus store and bought a pair of the Mindel Desert Fox boots, which I've reviewed on the channel a couple of times, and put in a plan, because I was living here on this development, to walk around here on a regular basis, daily if I could, which I didn't manage, but still quite a lot. As I mentioned, it's 12 kilometres, and also walks outside into Dubai, and also occasionally into the desert, You've got to be pretty careful walking out in the desert though, obviously given heat situations. You can drive out, I've done a lot of driving out in the desert, but even then you need more than one vehicle to be safe, because obviously you easily get stuck and you need other people to help you pull it out, push it out, etc. So I started walking around here, and as I mentioned, my aim was fitness, and my target, and it still is, from 2015 to now, is 1,610 kilometers a year. Well, why that odd number? Well, that's 1,000 miles approximately. But living here, I work in kilometers and just got used to that over the years. Also, there's a psychological process. When you walk in kilometers, you feel as though you've done more. So 1,610 kilometers. Now, some years I've done that. In fact, I've exceeded that. Some years I've done less than that. Ironically, I tend to do more when I was still working. Now I'm retired, mainly because of COVID. Haven't done so much, plus I'm working on my house and projects on my house, which has sort of stopped the walking a little bit. The story that goes with that, I remember, is that one year I did over 1,900 kilometers, and I was with then the next year when one of my customers in Doha, in Qatar, and I mentioned that I was doing this walking. I'd done over 1,900 kilometers, and his question was, well, how did you get back? I said, no, I didn't do it in one go. I did it in 12 to 15 kilometer stretches. Oh, so he wasn't so impressed then, actually. From Dubai, 1,900 kilometers, I've probably been somewhere in the middle of Turkey, I would think. Little view out of the community there, but show you a bit more of that. So that's the plan. I've actually, having that since in that succeeding time now, walked further than from my house in the UK to Dubai. I've passed that distance, so I'm probably on the way to Australia now. So yeah, 1,610 kilometers is the plan. Some years I've done more than that, some years I've done less than that. I'm hoping, especially the last couple of years, have been difficult with COVID. This year, it's middle of March, I'm on target. It works out 135 kilometers a month. We're just coming up to what they've created here, like a mini oasis. There's a nice little feature so you can view the plants, listen to the birds. So yeah, that's the plan, that's the distance I want to do, and part of the reviewing of the boots and the channel is all part of the motivation to get those numbers in, because anybody who walks on a regular basis, sometimes it's quite tough to get out the door, particularly if you're in the UK and the weather's bad. So it's a part of the motivation to do that. That's why I started the channel. The channel started because I was always interested in creating a YouTube channel for history projects, which I've done a few of those. I want to carry on doing a few. Plus I'm also trying to combine a little bit of showing you some boots and reviewing and perhaps interesting places to visit. Combine the two things together. And I was very, very surprised by the reaction when I put the first review on the Desert Fox, and how interested people were. And so it's sort of self-perpetuated, to be honest. And now we're up to something like I think 280,000 views in total. Pretty amazing, really, I think. And I would say nearly all, if not all, the feedback has been positive, so thank you for that. Thank you for taking the time to come back with feedback. If I see a comment, I always reply to it. Sometimes of course comments come in and for whatever reason I don't get the notification, so if you have left a comment at some stage, you've not had a reply, I apologise for that. But again, that's not because I haven't bothered, it's because I just haven't seen that you've left a comment. So here what they're doing is giving you the name of the plants. So they really do take care of this, and there's an army of these guys doing this. And people living on this development, some people have bought these properties, but I would say the majority are just renting them from somebody else who has previously bought it. So here's a little fountain coming into the Oasis area. This was opened in 2016. And it's a little play area for children. It's just somewhere to sit, have your water, because there's a couple of things you do need when you're walking, whether it's here, certainly if you're walking outside, you need to take water with you, and you need a good hat and a good pair of boots, etc. So what else? So that is the distance that I'm covering. The next question I often get is, in fact here's the water bottle on my hip, and here's an old bush hat from South Africa I bought some years ago. Which is your favourite pair of boots? Yeah, that's a bit of a tricky one, because it all depends on the environment in a way. Certainly if you, and I'm using the UK as an example, but it could be many places in the world, you can probably get away with one pair of boots for all of the year. Boots that are waterproof, and they'll see you through the winter perhaps, and even the height of summer. But obviously it's ideal to have more than one pair, depending on the weather. Again, if you live in somewhere like the Middle East, all you need is a pair of desert boots. You don't need lots of different boots. So I think rather than which is my favourite pair of boots, it's more how do I view brands. And the brands that I have a lot of confidence in is certainly Hikes. I think they are very well manufactured. I've got 3 pairs of Hikes and they're all well made. Ituri, the Spanish company, again quite impressed with their products. The cold weather boot, there's a patrol boot. I've got their desert boot, but I haven't used it very much so far. Altbergs, I haven't used their Defender very much, but they have a very good reputation. Mindel, again, very happy with the Desert Fox. I did over 3,300 kilometres out here in the Middle East with them, both walking around this area and walking, outside. I also, again, when I say walking, I don't clock just average walks, going to the shop for a bottle of milk, etc. I'm just monitoring when I literally go, like I am today, going out for a walk. It's 12 kilometres, and I monitor that walk. So hard to judge just one pair of boots I like above all the others. Certainly the boots I've been using so far, most of them I've liked, like the Swiss Army boot I think is an excellent boot. The Swedish boot, I've only not done a lot of work in them yet, and they're going to take a lot of breaking in. The cold weather boot by Ituri, the hike boots, the Desert Fox. So there's not been one so far I haven't really liked, but some of them I've hardly used yet, or not even used at all. So that might happen. So that's about the boots. What's the future for the channel? Well, hopefully carrying on with the boot reviews. The plan is to, once I've reviewed them initially, after 500 plus kilometres at some stage, give an update, which I've now done on a few pairs, and then every 500 or so kilometres after that, while I'm using them, give an update. I've now got about I think 30 pairs of boots. Well, one's completely finished, the Desert Fox. They went to the Great Boot Hill in the Sky. But I've still got a lot of boots yet. I'll never wear them all out. I'd have to live to be 140 to do that, which is slightly unlikely, I think. But carry on reviewing them and try to bring you a place with them that is, hopefully of interest. And then secondly, try to bring some more historical videos, not related to boots. I've got a few of those planned. COVID actually stopped that, but hopefully I can bring more of them. Little play area there. You can hear the birds. You can see the fence there, which is the perimeter fence all the way around from the outside world. Okay, what else do I get asked? Yeah, one of that is, which might be of interest again, is, I'll move on a little bit as we're talking. Put the hat back on. You know, where does the YouTube name On The Run, why am I using that? And I guess 99% of people will just guess that it's something to do with running, but it's actually not. My running days are, again, sort of long gone, just walking basically. It's the same from the British Fire Service, and it goes back to the Victorian times, but it's the same that's still used today. So when what the public would call a fire engine, or the service might call an appliance, or you might call it your pump, or if you're in America you might call them a truck, then when they're ready to go out the station at a moment's notice, they're on the run. Consequently, if there's a fault with one, or it needs restocking with hose or the breathing apparatus cylinders or whatever, then it's off the run until it's brought back on the run. Now that saying comes, as I mentioned, from the Victorian days, when they used to have steam pumpers and horses. There's some of the villas here, some of the bigger villas. There's different sizes. And they used to make the fire station floors with a slight tilt on them. So the steam pumper would be parked up, chocks under the wheels, and handbrake on, and the boiler would be all stacked up ready to be lit. So when they had a call, and again in the UK service that's called a shout, so when they had a shout, or what you might say a fire call, and here's a scene of Dubai now, a part of it, part of the developments. And you look at these cars coming around here. If we stood here waiting, that's where you'd see quite a high proportion of four-wheel drive SUVs. So when they had a call, one fireman, because it was firemen we're talking about Victorian days, would light the fire so that it was starting to heat up. So on the way to the fire would burn and build the pressure up for the steam pumper, and then they would hook the horses up, bring the horses out of the stables or wherever they were coming from, I guess, hook them up, and whether they're ready to go, they take the chocks away, take the handbrake off, and just the weight of the fire engine, of the pump, would start to move forward under its own weight, and therefore the horses didn't have to pull against that dead weight. So as they came out the station, they were already on the run. So that's where that saying comes from. And it's still used today in the British Fire Service when an appliance or fire engine is ready to go. it's on the run. So nice and hot today. It's heating up. It's probably, not sure if I mentioned that, but sort of 36 I would say. Yeah, I think I did mention it. So 12 kilometre around here, and nice and sweaty when I get back. Okay folks, I think that's about it for now. I'm hoping to bring you some more updates back in the UK in the near future. Some more updates on some of the existing boots, and also see what other boots I could get. This year I believe there's a new tender going out with the British MOD for a new 5-year contract for boots. So I think they're issuing that. So we'll have to see what happens on that, and who tenders and who finally secures that tender. Alright, so take care out there. Difficult times for us yet again in the world after COVID. Let's just all pray for peace from wherever country you're from. And let's hope that the suffering in the world, in a particular region that we're all interested in, ends in the not too distant future. So take care out there, enjoy your walking, and it's bye from Arabian Ranches.